And there you are. Uh, One last thing before we actually get started is that we would like to thank the National Association of Science Writers for funding our project. We were a recipient of the Peggy Idea Grant last year, and with that grant money, we've been running these workshops on science communication, particularly using multimedia in science journalism. That includes a podcast workshop we did last week. If you guys are interested in those slides, just let me know. We can send that to you. And then we did some other ones in the fall. And we also have some money for people who might be interested in doing science writing and science journalism for our new Be Scientist platform, which we can talk about later. But with all that being said, I want to introduce Michael Boulter, who's been a friend of mine since college at Penn State. So I'm going to let you take it away, Mike.
Hello. Hi, Jordan. Yes, we have been friends. Sure. Let me see here. I'm going to share my little PowerPoint. All right. All right. Who's excited to do some learning? I'm excited. I love talking about this kind of stuff. So, quick thing about who am I? I studied film at Penn State. Thank you for the emoji. I've been working at the PBS NewsHour since 2017. Uh, it's a nationally broadcasted program. In case you don't know what the PBS NewsHour is, I worked on the weekend show that ran out of Virginia from I think 2022 till it closed this year because of the federal cuts. But I got to produce multiple shows for that program. So that's just a little bit about like me, where I come from, kind of my expertise here. I'm kind of curious since for the two of you guys that are here, kind of what's your like level of experience with doing kind of video stuff? Like what are you hoping to learn? Just kind of get a sense of what we're talking to you guys. Anything? Okay, let's see something. Check. Podcasting. Okay. Very cool. Yeah. All right. All right. Sounds good. Hoping to learn a little bit about video. Well, this is actually good because the news hour is kind of a audio. It's sort of also a radio program a little bit. So a lot of our program is built with a lot of audio in mind. So we trying to juggle those things here. All right. So let's talk about the plan today. We're kind of gonna go quick. We're gonna kind of do a bit of a hypothetical story together. I'm gonna kind of talk you through like what goes into making a news hour piece, a production piece, and kind of what you can take away from that, and some like little do's and don'ts that go into everything. Um, so let's go. So here are the quick steps for making a news hour story. How do you go from idea to a full piece that airs on television? Um, Not all of these are going to be applicable to us today. Honestly, not all of them are applicable unless you're like a television person. But as you guys should be familiar with the research phase. So if you have like an idea, like oh, okay. Oh, just saw this. Oh, cool. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Pope. Thank you for that comment about wanting to see if there's any still resources for sure. So you guys, I'm sure you guys have like some stories that you find really interesting, some kind of like things you wish were out there a little bit more, some kinds of stories. Um, so I'm at like the first step that you are all probably all familiar with is research phase. Once you kind of have an idea of like what the story exists, then we move on to pitching phase. If you're working by yourself, you don't need to pitch to anybody. But this is when it turns from something amorphous. So I'm going to use the example. I did a story about book talk, like book TikTok. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but TikTok had a huge like book subculture that was a huge driver of sales during the pandemic, especially. So there were a lot of people on there just sharing the kinds of books they liked, and it became a real like mover of sales and product. And like Barnes and Noble was like going out of the way to cover book talk stuff. So I saw that that was existing in Barnes and Noble, and then I kind of turned that into a pitch. And like, we're gonna go talk to these people. We're gonna like turn it into this kind of thing. So that's where kind of get this amorphous thing. Once it's been approved, we're gonna go into the actual week here. So it's we're gonna pre-interview a bunch of people. I'm gonna explain what a pre-interview is later. And once you're done talking to a bunch of people, you're gonna pick your best voices, the people that you like the most, and then you're going to write a script. We're going to kind of go over writing a script today, the workshop. Excited for that. And then once you're done, when you have your script kind of figured out, you're going to go and do the interview properly in person with a correspondent or an anchor, somebody. And then when you're out there in production, then you're going to go film kind of footage roll to cover the story. And then once that's all done, you're going to edit it all together. And we'll go over all this more specifically. But here are the basic steps that go into doing any news ups. So any questions so far? Feel free to unmute also. You don't need to write in the chat. It's whichever works for you guys. Any questions before I keep going? Nope.
My one thing, I know we
So
talked about it earlier, but like it sounds like you're echoing a little bit, so maybe you do need to check the audio thing on the Zoom account.
sure. All right. Hopefully this is a little better for you guys. All right.
You're good.
Good. All right. Let's talk about a pre-interview. So a pre-interview is kind of a weird broadcast thing that you might do with podcasts as well. But basically it's when you have an idea of a story. So for example, if there's like some science story that you really want to talk about, and there are like 4 scientists that are all studying this, what you'll do is you'll do what's called a pre-interview with all 4 of them. And when you're done talking to them, you'll kind of have a sense of like, oh, that person was a really good talker. They could really explain what they're talking about. Let's go with them when it's time to like bring the actual correspondent in. But that's useful also for just like it kind of separates the research phase and the interview phase a little bit for you. Why would you do this? It's a good question. It's really useful for like transitioning yourself from like learning about something to like actually physically trying to make a story about it. All right, let's keep moving. I think pre-interviews are kind of interesting, but we'll keep going here. So once you're done with pre-interviewing a bunch of people, so let's say again, let's talk about book talk, since that's kind of my go-to example. When we did a pre-interview, we pre-interviewed journalists who was reporting on this. We interviewed somebody who did book stats to tell us about all the books. We interviewed multiple TikTokers. We interviewed like 6 of them. And then we narrowed it down to 3 that we used for the story. We interviewed like an author who had written a book that blew up on TikTok. So those are all like examples of pre-interviews, right? You interview like 20 people, and then you narrow it down to like the 5 you'll actually use for the piece of content that you're going to make. Where you do that consolidating is in the scripting step. So the scripting part is the most important part. This is kind of a really cool, valuable tool here. So I made a Google Doc here that Jordan shared where I went ahead and earlier this week, I did a pre-interview with Jordan about his research. So Jordan talked about kind of what he's been doing for his PhD thesis, what it's kind of how his methods through it, how he came up with this idea and where it's going to go. And that interview is down here at the bottom. Okay. I went through and also highlighted some of my favorite parts to kind of save you guys a little bit of time. So when you have this pre-interview, now what you do is you're going to turn that into a script, right? So this will be on the left. Sorry. All right, a little bit of water. So the typical script in TV, and Jordan's actually found this useful for YouTube, and I found this useful for YouTube as well, is you're going to have two kind of elements to everything. So you're always going to have what you hear, where's the audio, and then the video is what's going to be over top of whatever people are talking about. Okay, that if you think about it on social media or anything visual related, the main thrust of everything is going to be what you're hearing, right? Most of the time when I'm watching a YouTube video, I'm usually not watching it, listening to it. Same with television, you know. So you kind of this is where you kind of lay out your story. You'll use bites from the interviews that you've done, and you'll assemble them together into some kind of coherent through line. Okay. And then you'll use voiceover to kind of patch together the story. Now, in television, a lot of people use a lot of voiceover. Voiceover is very standard with TV. So it'll be like 60% voiceover and then little couple bites here and there. But you are free to do this however you want. Whatever feels good to you. If you just want to go full bites and have like almost no voiceover, go for it. I mean, that's my preferred way of doing things. I get kind of frustrated at how much PBS wants me to use voiceover. But when you're doing that, you're organizing your bites. You're going to put them on the left, and then you're going to kind of put what you think visuals will go. So if there's a voiceover, if there's a bite, and it's a Jordan's like full bite that he's saying, so like whatever, like this first part here, we can just see him talk. So we don't need anything to cover that. But if you want to take a big bite like this like huge thought here, and you want to like cut it down and make it shorter, the shorter is better. You're going to have to cover it with something. So on the right hand side, you're going to just brainstorm things that you think could go over top of. Well, okay. So I made a bunch of tabs here on the left hand side for you guys to do. And I think if you guys don't have any questions, I think what I would love to see is for you guys to kind of go through Jordan's interview, see what you find interesting, pull out the bits you find interesting, and try to assemble it into some kind of cohesive script from beginning, middle, and end. Don't spend too much time on it because we don't have that much time, but just have fun kind of playing with this format. Jordan, I know you got a lot of use out of this kind of script style. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I can definitely speak to this. I said earlier, I've known Mike since college. And when I started getting into science communication, um, this is a conversation we had, and it really helped me think about things from even just video to YouTube. With YouTube stuff, it made a lot of sense. But even with podcasting, it made a lot of sense for me to think about, well, when am I going to be saying things? When might I think about using sound effects? When would I include interview clips and things like that? And this idea here that Mike was talking about was something we talked about last week in a podcast workshop. So now you're getting it straight from the source, honestly. So we'll share those slides again. We'll share those slides with y'all if you're interested. But this is where I got that idea from. So here it is.
Yeah, and this is like a really powerful method, honestly, for you to like organize your thoughts and kind of like you kind of get to the core of something. So like I talked to Jordan for like 10 minutes. And when you take that 10-minute interview and you break it up into pieces, and you kind of reassemble it into something, it's like 2 minutes, but it still gets to the core of what he's talking about. That kind of thing is it's fun for me, but I think it's really valuable also for like, I think it'll make you a better communicator when it comes to science, when it comes to your own things. You can kind of see like how professionals have done it over the decades, and kind of like that'll help kind of train you as a person speaking or coming up with ideas. I think this is just, it helped me a lot. All right, so I'm going to give you guys a little bit of time here. Maybe let's say, I don't know, 10 minutes. That's about good enough for now. This can this whole process can take like a full work day, so I wouldn't let's not like over let's not back everybody. Maria, that was a good question you had. So about a pre-interview, so a lot of it is expectations, right? So when you're talking to somebody, it's really important to set the expectation like, hey, we're just going to be talking to a bunch of people. We're kind of in the research phase. We might talk, this might be in the piece. We might talk to you later in the piece, maybe not. We're not sure if it's even going to be a story yet. It's always really exciting when somebody gets the chance to like talk to PBS. So you want to really, or like, I've had colleagues that have been interviewed by like the New York Times before, and they're like so excited to be in the New York Times, but then nothing happens with the story because that's just the reality of journalism. So you just kind of have to be honest with people about that. Um, but it's tough. It is tough to be like, hey, thank you for talking to me, but just it's probably there's a good chance this won't actually make it. But if it does, that's really exciting. Okay, problem. All right. Okay, so I think I want to look at the scripts you guys did actually. Yeah. So I really like that you guys kind of like we're trying to think about like what would you put over top. So I'm going to kind of show you kind of what I did here. So I opened with a bite, which I like to do. Um, and then I introduced who Jordan was. So either you can introduce who your person is first, which is the traditional way of doing it, or you can have them introduce themselves a little bit and then explain who they are. Um, so I had Jordan kind of do some kind of intro bite that's something snappy, people catch on, and then kind of explain who Jordan is, what his bona fides are, what is he up to, and then I show some bite here. You'll notice that I used an edit. So I used this line here to delineate edit. So this first half of the bite and this second half of the bite are like 3 minutes apart in the actual audio, or something like that. But you don't want to show the full 3 minute answer because that's really boring. So you want to take the best part at the beginning, best part at the end, and then put some kind of B-roll here to cover up that stretch. Um, so, for example, he's talking about putting some metal tube into the ground. So any footage he has of the metal tube. Or if you get the chance to go with him into the field, you film him with the metal tube. We'll go into it. So kind of just like you guys will have access to this Google Doc. I'm not like deleting it anytime soon. So if you want to like go and play with this later, feel free. Um, but this is like I hope you found this kind of process interesting because I think it's a really valuable way of looking at how you kind of organize your stories. Kind of any questions before we keep going? All right, let's keep going. So, all good. No worries. Thanks for being here. Okay, let's talk production. Production is fun. Um, so you pre-interviewed Jordan. You're like, got the okay from your bosses. Do I have any other shorthand symbols? Good question, Jordan. You'll see some here. I do X. I throw in a little XX as a placeholder, like visiting sites from blank to blank. I might go talk to Jordan later and get the specifics, but if I don't have them, I just like put placeholders in when I'm writing voiceovers. We can go back, fix them later. It stops you. It lets you keep the vibes flowing uh, without like waiting to be actually correct all the time. You know. So placeholder. That's my favorite. If you ever look at one of my scripts, it's full of these. Really, you'll fill it in. Da-da. All right. Anything else? Listen. We get to talk about production. So now that you have your beautiful script, right? You have the story on paper, right? It's a thing that you can now refer to. You can look at this piece of paper, you can read it through, and you can see your story, beginning, middle, and end. So when you then go into production, you're there to try to execute what's on the script, right? So you know what you want your story to look like, you kind of know what you want people to say. Now you're in production to go film Jordan doing the things you said that you would need coverage for in your script, right? And also the actual. Um, when you're filming, three things that you need to keep in track. The three most important things are your audio quality. That's the most important. Nobody forgives bad audio. You want to have a good microphone. And there's actually a lot of good cheap microphones nowadays. Not when I was starting out, it was only like the $400 ones. Um, and then, so your most important thing is your audio. The second most important thing is storytelling. Are you bringing people along with you? Are you kind of telling them a story? Are you like guiding them through? People really value that. As long as that's good, people kind of don't care if your shots aren't professional grade quality. As long as they're being pulled along and pulled through and they feel compelled, video is not as important as storytelling. You still want good video, especially now. People, because of YouTube, people's standards are really high. I'm sure you guys have seen comments from people saying about bad shots. Maybe only it seems. But anyway, um, when you're in production, um, the hope, the dream is a three-person crew. Um, in the real world, you won't have this, but it'd be nice. It's always nice to have. You want somebody there who's in charge of the camera, in charge of audio. So they're there to make sure that what you're filming looks good. That's all they care about. Is that the shots look good and you're getting what you need. The producer is there to keep track of the script. Are you following through on the script? Did you eat something in the script that you're not getting yet? That's what the producer is that's their full job. Then you have the correspondent who is there to ask questions. They can be fully present with people that you're interacting with. Because the producer can't be fully present, the camera person can't be fully present, but the correspondent can. So this is the dream. In a real world, you probably only have two of these. You'll have to wear multiple hats, but if you can have three people, that's perfect. That's the ideal. All right. When you go on a shoot to film something, the three things you'll tend to film is the interview. So we'll keep using Jordan as an example. We're going to film Jordan's interview. We're going to film a walk and talk with Jordan and whoever your correspondent is, which is only a thing you see on television, but sometimes you might see it on YouTube. I don't know if like the YouTuber was famous. You just film Jordan and the person walking together somewhere, and it's a perfect way to introduce uh, the it's like Jordan Chapman is a blah blah blah, and so you just see Jordan walking with somebody else. That's just like if you watch any 60 minutes, you'll see that 100. You'll see that constantly, especially if you watch PBS. You'll definitely see. Then the third thing is the B-roll sequences. So for those coming from the audio world, the B-roll sequences is kind of the one thing that you'll have to learn. And I'm gonna kind of teach you that today. That'll be the second little fun workshop. Okay. Those are the two things we're gonna be doing for this next workshop. I'm gonna have you guys go and set up an interview. And you don't have to actually interview somebody. You can interview like a stuffed animal or something that you have around the house. I'd like to say that this is my wife's, but it's not. It's mine. But yeah, so you're gonna just set up a picture that'll be like your interview that you'd have, and then film a B-roll sequence of some kind. I'm gonna go into both of these. Um, let's talk about how to do an interview setup. Any questions before I go into these specifics? Because I'm kind of covering a lot of stuff. From your side, all right. All right. let's look at what a typical interview looks like. 60 minutes. That is as traditional as you get. A good interview has the person who's important on a third of the screen, looking towards the correspondent. So you'll see that there's a lot of empty space here on the left side. That empty space, goodness gracious, my slide game slide. All right, the the left side here, this is called nose room. So if people are looking in a direction, you want the camera to fill in empty space where they're looking. That's just one of those things that people have just had in film, and it's just part of film language. So it's a thing you just have to keep on. We'll see this everywhere, everywhere. So you want nose room and you want headroom. Headroom is the big one. Look how much space is above Pete Hegseth's head here. Barely any. You want some space, right? But you don't want a lot. Like if you're doing an interview, because I guess I'll just use my Zoom thing. Like if I'm like this, there's so much space up here that doesn't look professional. You want to have just a little bit of space. This is, like I said, the very traditional setup. Oh, let's put the other audio equipment. Okay. Okay. It's a good question. All right, we'll try to get there. I think Jordan can answer audio questions a little better than I can since he's the podcaster. Um, but we can talk about that for sure. All right. So this is a very traditional setup, right? You have your close up, but maybe you're out in the field. So my colleague Lorna did a story about birds hitting buildings in Philadelphia. And she decided that she wanted the aesthetic to be that she interview everybody outside, right? Because it's about the buildings in Philadelphia and the birds hitting them. Right? So in every shot, she has a person and buildings outside. And because of this, it wasn't like sitting down, like you're not sitting down with the Secretary of Defense and you have like three cameras and you're like, this is like you have 20 minutes to film this guy. Like this is a little more casual. So we'll have like she just has herself, her talking to the correspondent here, John Yang, person talking to the correspondent, and she's just kind of filming them, but she's keeping that nose room, she's keeping that head. So very important. This shot on the right is a little different because I guess she's trying to make a more beautiful, beatific shot here. But it still fills a lot of those kinds of things. No shot's going to be perfect, but you want to try to keep these things in mind. Okay? So keep that in mind when you try to do your little interview shot. Okay? Headroom, nose room. If you remember those two things, you got it. If you're doing Zoom, which most of us are, if we're reporters, if you don't have any money to go out and do a film shoot and interview somebody, you do a Zoom interview. You can still keep the headroom rule still applies here. The nose room rule doesn't apply because people are staring directly at the camera. Because people are staring directly at the camera, you can have them smack dab in the middle and it looks great. You just want the camera kind of showing where they're looking. That's why you want the nose room. And I wanted to show off also our anchor on None of Us. It's an amazing COVID setup. I mean, this is one of the greatest COVID oversight setups I've ever seen in my life. These are the things you notice when you're talking. Okay, that's interviews. Let's talk B-roll. So B-roll is the bread and butter of any story. You need it because you need to cover all of the cuts you're making. Right? You need to cover up the voiceover. You need to cover up all the cuts you're making to the interviews. You need to have something to cover it up, and you use a B-roll sequence. Kind of will, as you shoot it, you kind of shoot it as you're going to edit it together. So I don't know if you guys are used to any video editing at all, but it's kind of like doing script editing. You're shooting a B-roll sequence. You want to tell a story. You kind of want to shoot it as you're going to unfurl it. Okay, so let me show you an example. This is an example from a 60-minute story about line suits. Okay. they were one of the main characters of the story. People they interviewed was this guy. He's a scientist, and they filmed him going out and trying to collect ticks. So this first shot is like this 5 minute shot of him waving a flag out in the middle of the field trying to catch ticks. Then they cut to this shot on the right side of him grabbing the ticks off the blanket, putting it in a little container. And then they have the close up of the container, right? So this is a very traditional B-roll sequence. Want to go wide, set us up. Where are we? You know, we're in the middle of this forest. What is this guy doing? He's grabbing ticks. Here's the tick. Right? 1, 2, 3. You just keep it nice and simple. So if we want to go back to the example of Jordan's thing, it'll be here's a plantation, here's a bunch of people in the field, here's Jordan putting a stake in. Right? 1, 2, 3. You can think of it also as setup, payoff. Setup, where are we? Payoff, we're here. Here's what's important. All right? It's very simple, but it's easy to forget. Okay. So we're gonna have you, like I said, we're gonna have you go shoot a fake interview with whatever you got around the house. It can just be a picture to kind of keep that framing in mind. We're gonna do a quick B-roll sequence. Some things to keep in mind when you're shooting. So if you're not used to shooting video, here's some quick here's like a composition 101 class in 5 minutes. What makes a good shot is the thing that people can debate forever. But here, some basic tips are you want to like keep it focused. So this shot here, I've used from some nature documentary. I think I Googled rule of thirds and this popped up. Like this is about a dog in the wilderness, right? So you want the focus to be on the dog. If there's a McDonald's nearby, don't have the McDonald's in the shot, right? If there's a camera guy nearby, don't have that in the shot. It's about the dog, it's about the ice. Okay. When you're shooting, also keep in mind all the four corners of the frame as you're shooting. Okay. And make sure you have a good amount of background and foreground. Any good shot. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very similar to photography. It follows exactly the same rules. Want to have good back. Want to have something in the foreground. Want to have something in the background. You not want everything on the same plane. Like my face right now is just me and then the background. That's not that terribly interesting. If there was something right here, maybe that would be a little interesting. You know what I mean? The last thing here is the rule of thirds. So that's a tried and tested thing where if you put something on one of these thirds, like one of these lines frame, that usually means it's interesting. That's where our eyes like to look. Our eyes like to look somewhere on these third lines. You don't have to, it's not gospel. You don't really need to follow the rule of thirds, but it's a good thing to keep in mind as you're shooting. It lets you kind of fill in the frame with more stuff because the instinct is just to put what's important in the middle. But really, you want to put what's important off to the side because there's other stuff, right? Increasing the foreground background. I actually have an example here from our book talk story. Let's see if I can do this with my technology. Okay, so this don't mind my YouTube algorithm. So this was a interview we did for the book talk story. This was we had her husband shoot this for us because we didn't live in New York City. She's located in Virginia. We didn't have the money to go to New York City just to film this. So we had her husband shoot this. And the way he filmed these shots, there's like a couple little issues. One, there's nothing in the foreground, right? There's really nothing in the background. If you look at the four corners, these little signs off to the bottom left here, they're cut off. So if you're going to be cut off, just don't have them in the frame at all, right? And same with the stuff in the right side, like these books are cut off. If you're going to have them in the frame, either cut them out or have them included. Sorry if this is starting to get in the weeds here, but this is the kind of thing you want to, when you're setting up your B-roll shots, you want to be looking for. You want to have everything be focused, you want to have things in the frames. But he shot this little B-roll sequence, so she has her working here.
The executive
There's the voiceover covering it, and then here's her shot. Notice she's smack in the middle of the frame. Did not ask him to go reshoot this because, like there's only so much you can do when you're asking people to do things for you. Um, but he shot her smack dab in the middle of the frame. There's some books off to the side. This shot would be a lot better if you gave her some nose room to looking at her computer, or if you like had the books a little more featured or something. So it's not a very dynamic shot, but this is kind of the default that people go for. So if you're asking people to film B-roll for you, because you can't afford to go exactly, it is a great idea. It's when I gotta credit my coworker Andrew Corkery for coming up with that. He's amazing. Um, but when you're telling them to film stuff, try to keep this in mind. Try to tell them this kind of stuff. Give them a bit of a crash course, like, hey, don't try to like coach them a little bit. Now they're not going to follow those rules, but at least you gave it a try. Okay. All right. So, does anybody have any questions before I ask you to go and film some roll around your place, wherever you are?
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but there's something in the chat about uh Cat asks, when you take these shots, do you ask people to move their things around in the background?
Yes. Yes, you do. You have to be so shameless when you're filming. If you ever meet like a photographer in real life, they are so shameless. They will stand they will stand wherever they need to stand to get their shot. They will move things around unless you tell them not to. That is what they are like. That is what you have to be. You have to get your shot. Be nice. Don't be mean. You know. But you're there to get your shot. So don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, because people will honestly let you do it.
Yeah, I don't know if you got like we can get back into it later, but Kat also asked that question earlier about audio setup. I don't know if you want to answer that right now, or do you want to wait until near the end?
Audio equipment. I mean, there's like a lot of YouTuber kind of level audio stuff. Like any lavalier mic is good. Um, I think that's worth investing in. Any other kind of mic, I don't think it's worth investing in. Sure, professional. So lavalier mic, the kind of thing that you use to clip to somebody's shirt, so you get a really good sound for an interview. That's worth getting. Everything else, I don't think so.
Also, a windscreen if you're outside.
It's
That because I can very quickly show something. So earlier I had to hook up my microphone that I use for podcasting here. If I wouldn't take this outside, but let's say I would put a windscreen of some kind on this. That way, because you don't want to hear me outside
Zoom was actually
hearing
cutting
all the
out on those
winds.
sound
Yeah,
effects.
so you don't want that. So a windscreen will block a lot of that out. I mean, it's not going to block out everything. That's when you get into like audio production, which is still that's a whole nother thing that I'm still learning myself. But something like that helps. But that's just a quick explanation.
Remember the one season of The Bachelorette I watched? They had the big proposal on top of the mountain. It was so windy that the audio was really bad. And we were just like teams of people were so pissed. It's like, oh, it looks so great, but the audio sounds like garbage because there's a hurricane blowing through. So windscreens are very important. Yes, exactly. The hairy things that go on microphones are exactly for that. 100%. I think they called it a dead cat. Literally, you see it's like, it looks like a literal dead cat that you put on top of a mic. It's not actually a dead cat. That's what sometimes. 100%. All right. Are you guys excited to go try to shoot some B-roll stuff? This is kind of the last little thing we're gonna have you guys do. So thank you for doing all this. And I hope you're learning some stuff. Yes. So thank you for that question. Key question. This is the Google Drive. I'm going to, if you want me to look at what you sent and give you some feedback, upload it here whenever you're done. This is a Google Drive. that you should be able, a folder that you should be able to look at. Um, if you don't want me to look at it, then don't worry about it. But if you do, I'll be happy to look at it, give you some kind of feedback and things to work on. B-roll's hard. It's an art. It's a skill. It's a thing you learn. But doing it will make you better at it.
How long you want us to take on this, Mike?
Um, want to do 10, 15 again?
Let's do like
Five,
between 5 and 10. Yeah.
5, 10. Okay. And let's remember also, see if I can go back here. Let's remember the setup, the wide, medium, close up, right? Wide, medium, close up. Remember the ticks. All right. 5 minutes. Hot tip. Let's do it. I'll be here if you guys have any questions. Take a look here at what we did. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen for a second so I can pull up. All right, so this is what I tried to do. My wife made this. She's a polymer clay artist, so she made these amazing sculptures of us. So I do magic tricks as well. If you think I'm cool enough. So this is like a bunch of sculptures she's made, and she's out of here. And I got a little closer. This shot is not as good because we're no longer at like eye level with the bears. Now we're like above them, so the shot is not very good. The shot's a little better. And then I like this one. This kind of gives you some detail. So, wide, closer, detail. Yeah, close enough, right? Frog. All right. Closer frog. Oh, look at Hershey. See, this is good too. Because you get it's like Mr. Frog. Love this interview show. It's kind of fun. All right, very cool. Yeah. I think the one thing I would say about this, if this is your setup, you're not really showing us where you are at this, where you are. I didn't do that good a job with mine. This kind of gives you an idea. Also, we're talking about background. I like that you put this behind it. That's great. It shows off the frog. If you were doing this for real, look at the top thing in the top right corner. Remember, look to the corners. I would cut that out if you can. That's pretty good. The lamp is kind of in the shot, but that's not that bad. Um, fair, fair, fair. This is just practice, We're just trying to get a sense here. Where's our and Jordan with his cat? That's great. Great shot. Okay. So this is a great example. So this is like a classic B-roll trap that I fall for all the time. Is you're like movement's got to be great, right? Sometimes, but don't feel like you need to be moving all the time. I cannot tell you how many shots I did in talk that I could not use because of. But this looks pretty good. It's not too bad. Oh, this reveals the side of the frog. See, there's a narrative. Well done. You're like, oh, it's a normal frog. Nope. Genius. I love it. All right, Jordan. Let's take a look. Another look at Hershey. Okay, there's your close up. Is this your interview, Jordan? Is that what you were trying to do here?
Yeah, for sure. She wasn't cooperating, though.
So, Jordan, you know what I'm going to say?
Yeah, I got a couple ideas.
So, headroom. It's a big one. Look how much space is above your cat's head right now. Too much. Cat's head is the bottom half of the frame. You want the eyes to be the top third of the frame. Remember rule of thirds? You want that up there.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm just giving you a hard time. It's hard to control cats. You should, Hershey's gonna Hershey, right? Hershey's the name of his kid. Let's look at your other thing, Jordan. This is a nice little B-roll shot. So I guess this kind of is your close-up. A nice intimate shot of you.
Yeah, this is supposed to be the intimate shot for sure.
It's good. It's a good shot. What's this one? This is it's a nice look. All right, cool. So this is like once again, we're doing movement. Movement's a trap, but it can work. Sometimes it can work. But yeah, not too bad. Let's take a look at the frog again. So this is your inner shot of the frog, I assume. If it is, this works. So you see, you gave the frog some nose room, gave the frog some head room. The eyes are roughly on the top third, right? That's good. This is not bad. Pretty good. All right, let's take a look at some other ones. Let's see. It's like cat. Looks like you're bringing a couple of these in. Let's take a look. Cats. See, I don't have a cat, so that's on me. Apex Predator. Okay. Do I have to download it? No, I don't. Okay, this is your wide. Pretty good. This also establishes kind of where we are, where you live, also a little bit, So if you want to be like, this is the cat within its environment, you're kind of framing the street as well. That's kind of if you're doing that intentionally, good job. If you weren't, something to keep in mind. We're also looking at the street behind it, but great use of background. Sure. A plus. Let's take a look at the medium. Well done. Everybody's got black cats. Man. I didn't know black cats are so popular. So this is your media. What's shot? It's pretty good. I will say this is a little closer to medium shot. Black cats are cool. They're a little biased to it. Tell you. That's your close up. Boy, that is a close up. Okay. So if this is about the cat's eyes, good job. That's the first thing that I'm seeing. That's the first thing that I'm seeing here. I mean, it is quite an apex predator shot. I do feel like the cat's about to kill me for sure. If you set this up. Oh, and then it looks away. So what fun editing trick is if you have a cat like this, and then you just show some guy walking down the street from the perspective of their house, the people watching it are going to be like, "Oh, that guy's about to die. This cat's about to kill him." Exactly, exactly. So this is fun with film language. 100%. Crushing it. Man, you guys did so good. Oh, yes, exactly. But you want to remember, like, to shoot it from the cat's perspective, right? If you're just shooting it from, like, on the other side of the house, you're not going to get that. But if you shoot it from, like, where the cat roughly is, then it'll be set. Just keep that in mind.
Uh, One thing, Mike, you want to talk about the the 180 rule. That kind of reminded me of that.
Okay, yeah. So this is kind of see if we can get trying to find a good example here. Oh, this can work. So let me pull up my picture here of these two. Um, it's Cat's perspective, but it's them. It's them. All right, so all right, so the 180-degree rule is the thing that basically this is more has to do with scripted stuff. So if you like make a movie, uh, this is very important, and especially if you're shooting an interview, this is important. If you're showing like the correspondent and or yourself and the subject, you need to care about this. But otherwise, it's not that important. So the 180-degree rule basically means if you're filming these two talking, you want to imagine there's like a line that goes between their eyes, okay? And it just extends outwards in both directions. You do not want to be crossing that line with a cut. Now you can move the camera across the line, but if you, so see if I can find this. Shoot. Shining famously broke the 180. There we go. So here's a good example. Here's Jack Torrance, and here's the butler. If Jack Torrance is on the right, the butler's on the left. If you break the 180-degree rule, Jack Torrance is now on the left, and the butler's on the right. It disorients the viewer. You don't want to do this. You want to stay, you want to keep one person on the right, one person on the left, and that's why you don't break the 180. Did I do an okay job explaining that? Yeah, it is interesting. This is my favorite thing. I could talk about this all day. I'm sure you guys have stuff to do, so I'll try to hold on. But film language is really cool. There's a lot of invisible stuff. I hope you guys like start to see this kind of thing. Or when you like, if you ever watch like PBS, pretty good program, but also other stuff. You'll see this thing kind of thing every. You know to look for. Does anybody kind of have any more questions before we wrap it up here? Not now? Fair enough. Okay. So Jordan has a post-event survey. I'd be happy to answer questions that people have. I don't know a good way for you guys to be in touch with me, to be honest. But yeah,
Yeah, you can. I can
it's
share
I
Mike's
feel
email.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, you can share my Gmail.
Okay. I'll share
So,
mine too with y'all after this. And Mike will send me his slides and yeah.
take it. I'll be honest, Maria, journalism's tough right now, bro. It's just there's a lot of layoffs, you know. But well, who knows? PBS is the best, so I'd be happy to have more colleagues. Who knows? Maybe we'll get more funding. See, anything can happen. All right. Thank you guys for listening to me and being good sports, doing all this stuff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, please get it from Mike. Like I said, I've known Mike since the Penn State days. And me asking him weird questions about Avatar: Last Airbender and him for
That is
willing to
true.
talk to me about it.
That is true.
So yeah, so I appreciate him, and since then he's been like one of the go-to people I have for asking questions about media in general, especially because I've got into science communication after in grad school, and a lot of that has been even some video stuff. And when I'm confused, this is the first person I think about, and it's the first person I want to ask. So I'm always happy to talk to him about this stuff. So yeah, if you guys don't have any more questions, please fill out that post-event survey. And thank you for coming out to this. If you have questions for me or Mike, like you said, we'll share our emails. But yeah, this was a great time.
Oh, editing video. So I will say, DaVinci Resolve is free and it is professional grade. So go for that. The most you'll have to pay for the DaVinci Resolve is one with the pro version. That's like $300 and you're done. Um, DaVinci Resolve is pretty strong, and if you don't know how anything works, just ask, ChatGPT. Seriously, what I do. Or follow a YouTube guy. I've been transitioning there for years. It's going to be $70 a month.
Yeah, Adobe Audition also has I think you can pay $20 for a month for the Adobe product. So that's Adobe what is it, Premiere Pro? I think is what the video one is. Adobe Audition's the audio one. Premiere Pro, which is I actually learned first from DaVinci Resolve, but again, I'm not Mike, so I don't know all the tools. So I even with Premiere Pro, this probably still the first thing I want to ask is Mike. So yeah.
It's great, and if you're a student, they'll sometimes give it to you. So I had cheap Premiere for years
Mm.
until because I was a student. Problem. Thank you guys.
Cool, cool. I want to stop the recording there, and again, thanks guys.